What's up, everybody? It's Carpo, and it's morning time. I'm waking up and doing all my usual shit, and I thought intellect is a burden. It was just a thought that occurred to me. But it is a burden on humans to have intellect. So I decided to look up the actual definition of intellect so I could make this video and see what society thinks intellect is. Intellect is basically the ability to reason beyond just feeling. So it would be the opposite of faith, I guess. I guess I never really thought of it that way, but it would be the opposite of faith, because faith would be believing without any evidence, and intellect would be reasoning and seeing into things and looking for the evidence. Not that they're mutually exclusive or anything. It's just that intellect is, and I don't want that to come across bad, because I'm not saying that people who have faith are non-intellectual at all. That's not what I mean. Intellect is the ability to see through things and reason. And it's funny because while I was doing that, I looked on this dictionary thing. It said the word of the day was afflated, A-F-F-L-A-T-E-D. And afflated means inspired or feeling inspirational. So I was like, okay, I'm afflated to make a video about intellect, right? It feels like being a human, I have this feeling that we're like all just children, learning together, but we have this, it's kind of like, there's the grown-up kids in the class that are a little more mature, yet still not mature as, say, the adults, and that's how we are, but we don't have any adults. And it's sad, it's sad that the things that people will do, in the name of, progress, or some people who are supposedly intellectual, aware people who will take advantage of others and whatnot. And I think that intellect has to do with more than just knowing things, in the sense of, it's more than just being able to reason through your life. It's being able to reason for the greater whole, the greater good. And I guess that's just, of course, semantics. We're talking about words here. The English language, so many people get so tied up in terminology and definitions. And how many debates and arguments get down to the details of words, where people are like, well, no, this actually means this. And it's like, well, that's what intellect does to us. It makes us seek out conflicts or differences, or I don't know, it makes us think that we're all that and a bag of chips. I don't consider myself an academic intellect in any way. I don't even consider myself an intellect, actually. So I consider myself an aware person, and I consider myself an intuitive person, and a person who's always seeking truth. But intellect by itself, to me, doesn't fulfill my desires as far as being a human. There's always something lacking, something, no matter how much you try to think through life, there's always going to be something that seems to be nagging at the back. And this is what brings forth faith. So it's a matter of intellect is limited in the sense that we can only know so many things, We can be as intelligent as we want. We could know everything about the physical world, yet still not really have a clue about, what makes us happy. So it's very apparent when you see an argument, let's say a debate or a discussion. It usually gets into an argument, let's say, between a very highly academic individual who is very, very intelligent, maybe a scientific-minded person who has gone through a lot of really high-tech courses, and you'll see an argument with them, and let's say a Christian from the South that maybe can't even spell, or doesn't really have an education as far as the intellectual side, doesn't really understand the world, but they understand their faith. And it's like butting heads, because the arguments, they're both valid. One person's saying, no, you have to think reasonably. The other person's saying, no, you have to have, faith in something greater than yourself. And they're both right, in my opinion. That, it took me years to, after discussing, seeing how people acted, how so dry towards people who mentioned the word faith. And the definition of faith is belief without evidence. So, if you want to break it down to its basics, no more semantics about it. That's basically what it is. It means that you believe something strongly, but you have no way to prove it. And so, for a person to say that faith is useless is that's completely preposterous, because we may not have faith in people or gods or things, but we always have faith in something. For example, when I take on a new project, I have faith in myself that I can, finish that project. The only difference is that, I guess, that faith that I can do what I want to do is based on the knowledge that I have the ability to do it. For example, if I had no arms and no legs and I wanted to be a professional athlete, no amount of faith is going to make me an athlete. But let's say I want to get into, making jewelry. And I said I'm going to do this. I have faith that I can do it because I've messed with metals, because I understand how things work, because I have the capacity to do it. So maybe that would be confidence as opposed to faith. But let's think about that for a minute. Now that I popped that question, it just, bells went off in my own head. What is the difference between confidence and faith? Confidence means you can confide in someone or something. It means that you have strength, that that person will do what you expect them to do, or this situation will be the way you expect it to be. Whereas faith is just the hopes that what we've heard is true, or what we think is true. It's a difficult one, I guess. We all have hopes and dreams and desires, but I guess what I'm saying is our intellect gets in the way. It obscures us. It's often one of the things I ponder more than anything else is why do humans have consciousness? Why are we aware? And this is what leads me to believe that nature, it's one of the things that I just go over and over in my head, like, people say that they don't feel like we belong, that, we're ruining our planet, ruining ourselves, yada yada, that we just aren't part of this world, that we never were supposed to be here. But you start to see the connections and see that whatever reason nature decided to give us intelligence, it must have had a purpose in mind. It maybe not, though. You see, I'm not declaring yes, the universe wanted us to think, but consciousness, brain power, okay? Brain takes up a majority of your nutrition, okay? So before humans were able to really eat well, back when we were monkeys, if you want to say, we spent most of our time searching for food, trying to stay out of danger. There was a lot of fight or flight, hiding, making nests, making homes, but long before we had caves or any type of clothing. What happened was, as the food supply became more, it was a combination of our intelligence as well as maybe the food supply. Food became easier to get, therefore we had more time to think, more time to develop intelligence, more time to figure out better ways to get food. So the more intelligence we devised, the more food we were able to obtain. And these go hand in hand through the millions of years of evolution, to where finally the brain decided, all right, we have enough food supply, we can have a few people go out and hunt for us, and the rest of us can sit and think. And so we still have this today, reflected in society. We have the working class that goes out and they, do all the work to get all the machines for the people who do, the deep thinking or the detailed operations. And so we all play a part. We're all a component. But having that brain power comes at the cost of physical energy, because the brain takes so much power to think. People talk about mental exhaustion, and you hear that and you might think it's a joke, almost like, well, maybe a person's just been up too long thinking, or spent, you can become exhausted in a matter of a couple hours just by thinking too hard about something, because all that all that activity in the brain, it takes up so much energy. But now that we have the food and all those extra carbs and sugars, we can do it. And so I guess what I'm saying is we've developed this ability to have what we need hand in hand with our intellect. Develop more, have more food, develop more, have more food. Then we're able to finally create machines and develop technology, which brought us to where we are today. It's really cool to look back at what we considered intellectual, say hundreds of years ago, up until, let's say, the 1800s, when we began to create machines. And the bicycle wasn't even invented until, I believe, the late 1800s. I mean, what? But it's just one of those things. We assume people have the capacity to invent. People like Da Vinci, they had the inventions, they just didn't have the materials to build the inventions. So when people say, why did we get so smart so quick? Well, metal. If you want to put it in the words of Jared Diamond, it would be Guns, Germs, and Steel. It's a great book, and they have a documentary. It's actually a movie too. But Guns, Germs, and Steel, meaning that the germs that wipe out societies allow other ones to flourish and prosper. The guns or weapons the person has allows them to conquer other lands. And steel. Steel is the key element to making machinery, so we can create new, use those machines to create other machines. I mean, all you have to do is sit down and watch that show, How It's Made. It's one of those Discovery Channel shows or something, or Science Channel, and just looking at the machinery, the inside of factories, the automated machines. It's an amazing thing. If you just see how M&Ms are made, or let's take oranges for example. How much intellect did it take to get us from having small oranges on a tree that we can open up and eat, to having this tractor that can, with these special shakers that goes down and shakes the trees, collects all the oranges, pushes them into a bin, they dump it into a truck, they take it down to the machine, dump it in, it juices each one individually, puts them all in cartons, separates the pulp, does all this, moves this out, boom, 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 ship it out in jugs the same day. Not only that, but many varieties of oranges in Florida that we have, so they can harvest at all times of the year, which is why there's different flavors. It just seems like, that's just life to people. Sure, it's my orange juice, I go down and buy it. You know how much goes into making just your orange juice? So I'm totally grateful for every glass I have. And I realized that it was my ancestors that put in so much work. In other words, my great-great-grandparents, and my grandparents are the ones that worked their ass off, blue collar, to build it up to where we can live the way we want. At least, have the time to think and enjoy time with our family, and not always be struggling. So another way to put it would be to say that this wonderful country that I live in was built on the backs of slaves, and I give credit to those people who, even though they weren't willingly doing the work, the fact that people did the work. I guess the reason I brought that up is because we tend to think that today we're very intellectual and very smart, and that our ancestors were just idiots, or, I know we don't all think that, but that look at what our parents did to our planet, and look at what our grandparents did, and look at all these minds that they created, and didn't they know better? Didn't they know what they were doing? And the answer is no, they didn't. We thought that growth was the be-all, end-all of life, and that we needed to get more and more and more, and there were always people in there who said, no, we need to step back a little bit, But, progress must happen. That's just how it is. That's how humans are. Once I came to that realization in my life, I stopped fighting against the current, because I was always saying, we need to go back to the earth. We need to stop doing this, stop creating this. We got to stop watching TV and stop thinking so much, and stop inventing things, and just start living in a spiritual sense. But I realized, what does that mean? That it's not satisfying. It's not in human nature to just desire to know. We want to do, we want to act. And if materials are put in front of our face and we can create something out of it, we'll do it. I'm an artist. When I go out to the woods, I move sticks around and I build things, and I create little, models and huts and little trails and fun stuff like that. Stacking rocks and stuff like that. Now, you look at that and it seems separate from the nature around it, right? But look at a beaver dam, Look at the birds that clear areas for their nests, and For example, beavers have destroyed, I think, Patagonia because we brought them down there in the 1800s hoping for the fur trade, but then the people lost interest in the fur, and now they have overtaken the whole area and ruined all the waterways. They're just way overpopulated. It's kind of what happened to humans in the world. We built our own dams and flooded our own world, but metaphorically. And I think that if we step back and kind of look at this, we realize that the impact that we have on our planet, although detrimental in many ways, is really small potatoes in the long run. Besides the CO2 emissions, which are obviously an issue, combined with the fact we're already at a CO2 high, and that we're polluting our waterways, and we have nuclear waste, in the long run, all of this stuff is going to fade away just like we are. And for now, we just want to create things. So rather than fighting it, just say, oh, this is what it is. If we're going to invent, let's invent something safer and better. So instead of us complaining, we should develop our own intellect to contribute to that. So we at least have some ideas to share instead of just saying, don't do this, don't do this. We should say, this is the way around it. And that's the way I feel about everything, is that if you don't have a solution, don't talk about the problem. If the problem is something that we obviously have to deal with, like, yes, we need to eat, but let's say growing GMOs is a horrible thing. Let's say, I'm not going to get into the details, I'm just saying, this person says, well, we have this GMO crop that could give us a double yield. And the other person says, well, that's dangerous because it's GMO. And this person says, but if we do this, and this is all theoretical, then we could feed twice as many people. So it becomes an issue of, do we mess with nature in order to help more people? Or do we let nature flow in its own path? I'm not a GMO supporter, so I don't take that the wrong way. I'm actually very opposed to messing with the genetics of plants, but on the other hand, I also have seen some particular genetic alterations that seem to be in the benefit of man, or could be if it wasn't abused for money. But profit overrides intellect in many of these issues. So anyway, that's my take on intellect and whatnot. And for what it's worth, why do my videos always turn out to be so damn long? I guess I have a lot to say, but I'm not going to deny that. I like talking. Peace.